Hello, hello. Testing out the live feature. It says there's a chat, but I can't really see what it is. Maybe there's a way to open it up. I guess it'll just pop up. Can somebody put a message in the chat so I can please test one out? Welcome, welcome. First live video. Okay. Hello. Welcome, Lauren. Thank you for testing the chat out. I appreciate it. Today I'm drinking water. And that's what we're doing. Welcome, welcome to the first live video of mine. Now, adjust this a little bit. The topic of today's video is going to be, how do you choose a coach, right? How do you pick a coach that's right for you? First, I want to say that yesterday I hit 6 weeks sober. Very proud of that. It means a lot to me on my journey of self-development and growth. Now, how do you choose a coach that's right for you? Hello, Mick. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. Cheers to you. I appreciate the support. So for how you choose a coach that's right to you. Now, all I can do is speak about myself and the experiences I've had and the positive experiences I've had with other folks training them. Now, when I choose a coach, here's how I choose a coach. I pick somebody that has what I want, right? So if I'm going to pick a wealth coach, it's somebody that has something that indicates that they know what they're doing with money. If I'm going to pick a fitness coach, it's because somebody has a physique or a level of physical fitness that I'm impressed by. If I wanted to know how to run a marathon, right, I would pick a coach who was running marathons and maybe getting good times. What's very important when you're picking a coach is you want to pick somebody who has what you want. If I was picking a sobriety coach, I would pick somebody that had a good chunk of time and who I felt like was really conducting themselves in a way that I respected and that was not only clean but was embodying the spirit of sobriety in a way that I respect. You know what I mean? If somebody was really nice and happy-go-lucky and sociable and a good person when they're on drugs, and then they got off drugs and they became really rude or really nasty or mean or started stealing from people, right? Even though most people associate those negative activities with people that are getting high or that are doing drugs, sometimes you may notice that, at least me in particular, all I can speak to is I used to use those substances to not cope with other negative things. So I noticed that, especially early on in my sobriety journey, I may have been more tempted to hurt myself, hurt somebody else, lie, cheat, steal, do those things, right? Because my body was seeking some type of good feeling that I wasn't getting from drugs anymore. So just as an example, I think it's important to look at not only what somebody's doing, but how they're doing it. So when you're picking a coach, I think it's very important to pick somebody who has what you want, who has something that you want, if not the direct result that you want out of that coaching. So if you want to win championships, right, and you're playing a sport, you probably want to pick a coach that has won a championship before, as an example. Now, not to say that somebody can't take a chance on somebody and be there first, but I'll be honest with you, I don't really want to be a surgeon's first surgery. Maybe that makes me selfish. Maybe that makes me, I don't know, right, mistrusting. But I'm just being honest with you. If you're picking your person who's going to be helping you out with something, you want results. So when you're looking at how to pick the right coach, for example, you're going to be looking at, what has this person done for other people so far? What has the program done for them? Now, another thing I look for in a coach is somebody that actually lives their program. You know what I mean? Somebody that understands and lives and walks the walk. I think another word for a coach is a leader. Now, what I don't really agree with in terms of a leader is somebody who is not willing to do what they're asking their people to do. This is why a lot of phenomenal coaches in sports played the game and then maybe retired and got into coaching, right? Because they lived it, they walked it, they ran the suicide drills, they did the dribbling drills, they did the hitting drills if it's football, right? They lived it. So even if they're not still living it, at one point, they walk the walk. Now, I personally like to work with people who lead from the front. So I like my coaches to still be living it. I'll be honest with you. That's how I personally feel. So if I pick somebody that I want to be a business coach, they're still running their business. If I pick a fitness coach, they're still fit and working out. I think those things matter to me a lot. Now, another thing you want to consider when choosing the right coach is style. You want to pick style. Now, I don't want to be difficult here, but I noticed that there's 2 people in here, and I would really appreciate it if you could hit that like button. That'll help YouTube show me to more people. So if you could just throw that thumbs up in. If you don't like what you see, then don't even worry about it. But the thing that I would like is if the likes kind of mirrored the viewers. So I do appreciate that. If not, hold back and wait till you see something you like. But if you do like the message and you like what I put out there, I really would appreciate that. That would help me a lot. Now, thank you. I appreciate that. I see you guys. Much love. I really appreciate that a lot. Much gratitude. But something to consider when picking a coach is style. Now, if you don't like a person's style of operation, if you don't really respect the way that somebody moves, now you don't have to want to mirror that style, right? But if you see somebody's style and it just rubs you the wrong way, if you're just like, man, I hate that, I don't like that at all, that's probably not the right coach for you. I'll be honest. There's a lot of different coaching styles out there, especially when you look at business or you look at fitness. You know, there's a lot of people out there to choose from, believe it or not. There's a lot of choices. So I think when you're deciding who to choose, think about style. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to want to be that person. I think a lot of people take it a little too far, where they go, man, I'm only going to pick that coach if I want to be them. I think that honestly, deep down, is an identity issue. The first thing I would tell people that I coach is the only person you should want to be is the best version of you. Now, you may have met a couple versions of yourself. I know I have met a couple versions of myself that I don't ever want to be again. For example, I don't want to be me again, personally. You know, there was maybe some things right about him, but there were some things wrong about him that I don't want to go back to. That feels backwards to me, right? I know that sometimes you see a version of yourself that feels or looks shameful or weak or something that you're not really proud of. It's okay to move away from that and still love yourself and be yourself. I think that's very important. So you don't have to be your coach. You just have to learn from your coach. So I think when you're trying to choose the right coach, you have to recognize that it's your choice. You have the power to choose your coach. Now, something to consider. When you truly choose a coach, what you're going to be doing, at least when somebody chooses me, you're going to be unchoosing your other coaches. I personally don't co-coach people. If somebody's on my program, it's 100% my program beginning to end. And if you don't like the results you're getting, I respect that. But the way that I've seen it is you can't even really get the results from my program if you're mixing that with other people's programs, right? There's been some people that have wanted to run my workouts and try somebody else's food, or try my food plans and try somebody else's workouts at the same time. And what a lot of people don't recognize is that there's a synergistic aspect to it. There's a compounding effect. Now, if you feel confident with food and you don't want to pick up a food program, that's just fine. But the thing that I've noticed doesn't work is when somebody tries to receive coaching or instructions or a program from multiple people, because different philosophies can sometimes clash and you won't be getting the best of both worlds usually. You'll just be getting kind of neither of the results. So something to consider when choosing a coach is you should be willing to unchoose other coaches, at least temporarily, while you work with that coach. Now, I personally have worked with a handful of coaches because the analogy that I like to use is, as a business owner, as a coach myself, Let's say that I were to compare myself to a restaurant that cooks burgers, right? We all have favorite shows. Used to watch a lot of SpongeBob. Now, imagine if you work at the Krusty Krab, right? Or you work at the Chum Bucket, or you work at one of these places, and you've never gone across the street to try their burger, right? If you work at the Krusty Krab, you might notice the Chum Bucket doesn't get a whole lot of traffic. So you might ask yourself, welcome to any new viewers, by the way. You might ask yourself, why does my business do better than theirs? Or if you find yourself working at the Chum Bucket and you see the Krusty Krab across the street getting a whole lot of customers, you might ask yourself, why? Right? The first thing I would do as a business owner is walk across the street, buy a burger, and take a bite of that. Try it out. You know what I mean? You might go over to the Chum Bucket and it might be a phenomenal burger. And you might realize they have a marketing issue. They have a positioning issue. They have a communication issue. You might go over to the Krusty Krab and try their burger and it might make you sick. And you might ask yourself, how do they get all that traffic? Right? But you won't know unless you try. So I think the way that I'll typically look at it, especially as a coach, is if I see a coach who's not only doing well, but has results, I will buy the program and try it for a month. Now, I know when I used to be working in gyms, there was a lot of people who would come up to me and say, man, I love your results, or I love what you do with your team, or I love watching you guys train. And I go, hey, why don't you come try a workout with us? And then they're gone. You know what I mean? And I can't really add the two of those things up, because you're either lying about the first thing or there's some type of fear or you don't want to try it for some reason. And I realize that there's a lot of things in life you don't need to try one time. I'll be honest with you. If somebody goes their whole life and never tries a hard drug, I think that's a good decision. If somebody goes their whole life and never tries something that they see really not work for people, you don't have to try that. But if you're in the business and you want to master your vertical, or you want to see, well, what's the deal with these coaches? Why do people buy them? Why don't they? You know what I mean? The only way you'll actually find out is by trying it for yourself. Something to think about. So especially coaches, I see this all the time. There's a certain spiritual aspect. How can I sit here and ask somebody to try my coaching if I'm not willing to give my money to a coach and hand over the keys and trust them to coach me? You know what I mean? That goes back to what I said earlier about a leader, a coach, doesn't ask people to do things that they're not willing to do themselves. Now, I might know a lot, but there's somebody out there that knows something I don't. And there's no way for me to tap into that or get that if I never even try. So I think the first way to get a great coach is try a few different ones out, because you may be surprised to see what it's like, what the programming is, what the results are. They might speak to you differently than they speak to every follower that they have on social media. Or you might hop on a call with them and it might be the exact same energy that you get from when you watch their YouTube videos or when you get their posts or something like that. So something to think about is you got to be willing to try, and you got to give people the opportunity to either show up for you or not. And you got to be honest about what happens. So I think the way to get a great coach is try a couple out, because the same way that you won't even know who has the best burger, no matter what everybody says, you might like something different than the average population. You might line up exactly with the average population, but there's no way for you to know if you don't try. So I think one thing that works really well is giving it a try. You know what I mean? If there's somebody that charges $20,000 a month and you only have $400 to really put towards this, maybe that's not the right coach to try. Maybe you got to work your way in and find something that works, right? Maybe it's not worth selling your house, selling your car, selling your favorite watch, just to try something for a month that's not going to work for you. I'm not going to encourage that. But what I can tell you is the more you're willing to put into it, the more you will get out of it, right? So there's a reason why you don't get what you don't pay for in life. There's a reason why certain things come with a price tag attached to them, and certain things don't. Take tattoos, for example. Now, you might be able to find somebody who will tattoo you for free. I don't know that that's really what you should do. You might find somebody who's like, hey, I know how to do that surgery. Just come into my basement. I'll clean you up. I'll do the surgery myself, right? That might not be the way you want to go. You got to make your own decisions for yourself. One thing that a lot of people aren't told is, especially once you become an adult and you make some money, you have the choice. Nobody's going to choose for you unless you let them. Now, there's a lot of people who will tell you this guy's the best, that person's the best, this woman's the best. And if you look at it, they're not even trying. So how do they even know if they've never tried it? I'll tell you about when I started wanting to gain muscle a little bit. The thing that I ran into, everybody wanted to coach me on the side and in conversation, right? All of a sudden, every single person who had no muscle, who'd never done it, wants to tell me how to do it. Because there's a lot of people walking around that think they know things that really don't. Now, the lie I've learned is, especially as a man, if you knew how to get absolutely jacked, you would be that. If you knew how to be absolutely loaded, you would be that. If you knew how to win everything, you would be that. So most people that go around and say, here, you got to do this and then do that and then do this, if they're not doing it and they don't have the results, don't let that person coach you. And there's a reason why that person probably is not paid by anybody to coach anybody. So what they really want to do is feed their ego, feel like a coach for a second, because they're not willing to put the work in. And it boosts, the self-esteem of somebody who's like, wow, they're listening to me. I'm in control of that person now, right? So you don't just want to let anybody coach you. And a lot of people will try. The same applies for something like making money. The same applies for dating. The same applies for all kinds of things. If you go around telling people, hey, I think I want to do this, everybody will weigh it and say, here's how you do it. The first thing you want to look at is, do they have the results? Have they done it for themselves? Does anybody else trust them to do it? And do they deliver for those people? So when you're choosing a coach, and in a lot of areas in life, it can be hard to tell what's real. It can be hard to tell when somebody's telling the truth. So the last thing I'll tell you about how to choose a great coach is start asking them questions. Now, a good coach wants to receive questions because they have answers. And they might tell you once in a while, I'm sorry, I can't answer that unless you sign up, because it's not fair to my people who do pay for that information. But if they tell you professionally and respectfully, that's a real coach. Now, if you ask somebody a question, they go, why are you questioning me, right? When I was very early and immature as a coach, and even a couple times, maybe recently, when I lost my cool or broke character or whatever it might be, if somebody asks me a question and the ego activates, why do I have to answer that question? I've already proven myself. But what a lot of people don't realize is that person's testing you out as a coach, giving you a little practice run. So also, to anybody who wants to coach other people, the first thing I think you should do is buy a coach that's above you. Buy a coach that's ahead of you. Buy a coach that has a bigger business than you and more results than you, so you can be on the other side of it. Because you might forget real quick what it's like to be on the other side of it. Now, if you sign up for a coach and they hurt your feelings, they break you down, and they don't deliver for you, that might activate you to make sure you don't do that for other people, right? And show you ways that maybe you slip up a little bit, or ways that could possibly happen. So as a coach, the way that I would choose a coach are those following things. You know what I mean? I would see, do they have the results? I would just try a few out. I've probably bought 5 or 6 coaches between my span coaching. And I'll be honest with you, every single coach I've worked with, I've taken something from their program, working it into my own, and there's been certain things I have left out where I've been like, you know what? Maybe that's not my style. Maybe that's not going to work for me. So when you're choosing a coach or a leader or an instructor for yourself or for your child or for your partner or for anything like that, those are the factors you want to, consider. You want to really think about, do they have the results? Do they show up for people? Do they deliver? Can I trust them? Can I afford them? Right? These are the factors that you do want to look at. So I hope that gives people some weapons and some ammunition if you're thinking about potentially working with some of these coaches. Because the thing I'll tell you is, The right coach can really improve things a lot. And the wrong coach can really cause some damage. I'll be honest with you. So you look at what a bad coach does to a pro sports team. That team might lose years. That team might lose great players. That team might lose wins and potential championships, all because they have the wrong coach. Now, if you flip that, when a team has the right coach, that shows up as better players, that shows up as better practices, that shows up as better games, and that shows up as championships. And the last thing I'll address is there's a lot of people that think they don't need a coach at all. You might not. But if you want to play in the biggest league, the highest level, right? Every single NFL team has a coach. Every single NBA team has a coach. Every single NHL team has a coach, right? Tiger Woods, his whole career, has a coach. So I think these are things that you want to dig into and look at a little bit and maybe think about. Because if you want to play a certain game at the highest level, a coach could go a really long way, honestly. One of the closest relationships I can ever observe is the team captain and the coach. They're like this. And there's a reason for that. Something to think about. Yesterday I hit 6 weeks sober. I'm very proud of that. I feel like I'm mellowing out a little bit. I have a video I put up recently about how to meditate. If you want to meditate with me, that's been very helpful for me on my journey. Exercise, good water, good food, good people. These things are going to help a lot. Real quick before I go, I'll mention some of my favorite PS5 games because people might look down on a 30-year-old man who plays video games, but look it up. Video games are proven to help with stress, anxiety, depression, and a lot of things that somebody in recovery might be struggling with. I made the investment and I feel like it's been worth it. Right? I don't play competitively. I don't make any money, but I've had a lot of fun playing basketball on there. I've had a lot of fun playing Hitman on there. I've had a lot of fun playing Demon Souls on there. I've had a lot of fun playing Spider-Man on there, right? And fun is valuable because the last thing I'll tell you is the reason that you play a game, the game of life, is to enjoy your damn self, man. Don't forget to enjoy it while you're here. My first live. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. I really appreciate it. I'll probably do this more. Prometheus out.